Hey, my name is Matthew Cogswell, discipleship pastor here at Hope, and I'm glad to be with you during this Holy Week. I just get to share with you a devotional on the Maundy Thursday. A lot happens on this day. It's a day full of confrontation with his disciples. There's a betrayal, lots of powerful teachings, and most notably, there is a mandate and that would shape the lives of these disciples for ages to come. In fact, Maundy Thursday is called that because the word Maundy comes from the Latin mandatum, meaning command, referring to Jesus' commandment to love one another as he demonstrated by washing his disciples' feet at the Last Supper. And it's in the Gospel of John chapter 13, verse 2 through 5, where the apostle records the scene with great detail. It's just before the Passover festival, and they are celebrating the Passover meal together as friends and family, and they celebrate this meal in the upper room. And except this time, when they celebrate this Passover meal, Jesus does something different, and it's pretty unthinkable. And we see it in here in verse 2, where he says, This evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. And so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. This humbling act of service was no doubt unnerving to his disciples. They were watching their beloved rabbi do something that was unthinkable. It was a duty that was mostly related to servants, house servants that would wash the feet, not the holy anointed one, right? But after the initial resistance from Peter and some of the disciples, Jesus finishes washing their feet and begins to explain in verse 13. He says, "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." So again, this is an incredibly confusing time for his disciples to grasp the weight of what was just happening before them and the weight of the words that their rabbi was speaking to him. And this confusion only seems to be stirred up even more as we read that Judas leaves abruptly from the meal, and Jesus had spoken and said that the one who would betray him would dip in the same cup as he was dipping his bread. And so the disciples are disoriented, they didn't know what was really going on. And Jesus really follows up this confusion by capitalizing on what he just said with this statement. He says in verse 34, "A new commandment I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." So as we take time to kind of reflect on Maundy Thursday and what this means to us, a couple points. One, his love is not given in exchange for our efforts. I think it's easy for us to hear this command and just read this about Jesus and immediately begin to examine our lives for what we are or not doing. And yes, there is space and time for that for sure. But I think that if we're not careful, we can fall into that fallacy that is that his love is somewhat in exchange for how much we do, our efforts to love others. The truth is that it's Jesus' love first and foremost for us that frees us to really love others. Once we really let that sink in, that truth permeate our soul, then we really are not going to grasp this commandment or really live it out as he's called us to. So the question is, Have you accepted Jesus' love for you? Have you truly accepted how he sees you, not the perfected you, but you, who you are right there in your brokenness, in the awkwardness of your life? And are you, like Peter, willing to surrender to your rabbi, washing your feet and humbling you? Second thing that we would like to think about for this devotion today is, whose example of love are you following? See, in our world today, there are a lot of definitions of what love is, and packaged up images of what that love should be or should not be. But we see that this is not just any example of love that Jesus is saying here that we are to emulate to others, but it is Christ himself who is the example. Philippians 2:1-8 lays out this example of love that Christ modeled in his life and who illustrated through this Last Supper and washing his disciples' feet. Philippians chapter 2 verse 1, it says this: "Therefore, if any of you has any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used for his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross." You see, Christ's example of love was one of humility. He was willing to give up of his rights in order to obey God and to serve people. And like Christ, we should have a servant's attitude, serving out of love for God and love for people, not out of guilt or fear. Although we hear the word mandate or commandment during this Monday, Thursday as some means to kind of confuse us in the overall heart of what is being said here. But I think it is clear that Jesus was setting an example, moving from this commandment that was written on stone to an example that was of living flesh of the Son of God, that he laid out his life, one of true humility and of servanthood to all. So, what example of love are you following today? Does your daily life reflect the example of someone looking to be served or looking for opportunities to serve others? That's the kind of love that Jesus is commanding us, and he's modeling on this Monday, Thursday.